going back home to North London and being down just a goal, it's definitely doable for them to turn it around. But Milan are going to set up well defensively, and Spurs are going to have the work cut out for them. They just need something more, a little more spark up top, whether it's coming from Richarlison or anybody with Lucas Moura. Just these, whatever the trio is up there for Spurs, just hasn't been working. And Heung-min Son is an incredible player, but this year he's not been the guy that we're used to seeing. And it's frustrating to see as someone who loves him as a player. He's so dynamic with the ball at his feet. You can score from anywhere from outside the box. And just the fact that that hasn't really clicked for him this year, it's disappointing to see.
Yeah, I think it's certainly disappointing. But just to touch on something I alluded to a minute ago, the sloppiness of some of the games that we saw this week. Maybe I'm overanalyzing here, but a lot of managers have started to complain about the condensed schedules due to the World Cup and now forcing so many matches in a row. A lot of injuries are accumulating because of that. Maybe there's a correlation there. Just wanted to speak my piece on that before we moved on to, I think we should talk Dortmund Chelsea, because Nick, Chelsea, man, what is going on? This was not good in any stretch of the words. 21 shots, and they couldn't manage to find the back of the net. They're going to move on from Christian Pulisic. We know that. That's pretty much a guarantee at this point. And I'm like, I know this is the American in me, but I'm starting to look at
He's not the
match.
problem.
I'm looking at matches like this, and I feel like he could be a solution here, because they are so. I feel like they're incredibly good at getting the ball into good and dangerous areas. But then it's just I don't know, they miss the final factor, and it's a similar problem that the men's national team has, that Christian Pulisic has to have dealt with now on both sides of the ball. So Nick, what do you think? Is this match? Am I bloviating for no reason? Does this match speak to a bigger issue about the club? Obviously, they're spending like crazy. We all know that. So what's the deal here?
It's insane that no matter what combination of players you put in, you can buy a whole new squad of players and put them up front for Chelsea, and they can't score. It's I don't have an explanation for it. You bring in Mudryk, you bring in João Felix, you buff up the midfield, Enzo Fernandez, you do all these things, and the ball still will not go in the back of the net. I think this is the American in me coming out. Christian Pulisic has been a scapegoat for Chelsea. He's injured right now, and they still cannot score or create anything.
And
And
speaking of sorry, I have to cut
go
you off.
ahead, go ahead.
Speaking of American scapegoats, don't even get me started on Jesse Marsh, but go ahead.
I'm not going to get you started on Jesse Marsh. Chelsea, there's been some people, I've seen online, talking about how maybe some of the defensive signings haven't been great, like Cucurella. That's not the problem at all. It's really not. You can't win games if you don't score goals. And whether it's Kai Havertz starting up front, if it's Ziyech is in the team, if it's Mudryk, the ball's not going to the back of the net. Whether it's Mason Mount, when Pulisic's healthy, they've gone through. This has been a problem now. It was a problem under Thomas Tuchel. It's now a problem under Graham Potter. And I don't know what the solution is. I'm almost dumbfounded because they've spent so much money bringing in new players. And I think we've seen the quality that Mudryk has, and that I think he's going to be a very good player. But still, there's nobody who's going to put the ball in the back of the net right now. And it's the most frustrating, infuriating thing to watch Mudryk dribble compilations on YouTube. And then there's just no end product to any of Chelsea's play. It's infuriating. But rant over, bottom line, Chelsea need to find a way to score goals, or else they're going to be out.
When they bring like a number of players to Chelsea in the January transfer window, do Chelsea fans have to blame the management of Graham Potter and on how he's handling the number of players they brought in, especially with the team he's already had and that performance against Borussia Dortmund? Are the fans aiming at the management under Potter, or is it just the board bringing a number of players, spending a lot of money, and all of that happened to that loss against Borussia?
I think Graham Potter's a very good manager. If you look at what he's done in his career at Brighton and then before that, the things he's accomplished are immense in number. He's a good Thomas Tuchel is also a good manager. It's frustrating to see this happening. I think it's partially a matter of signings gelling, and when you bring in all these new players and asking them to gel immediately, maybe that's not something that can happen right away. And I think maybe by the end of this season we'll see Chelsea starting to put the ball in the back of the net. But there's just a part of me that's like, been the same thing even going back to 2021 when Chelsea won the Champions League. It was opportune goals and good defending that got them to that final, and a great pass from Mason Mount to Kai Havertz to score the only goal in that final. And I feel like Chelsea have the tools maybe to go on a similar run like that, but the ball's not going to the back of the net, and that's the biggest thing, and that's the thing that has to change. And I feel like I've said this so many times in FUV FC when Thomas Tuchel was in charge, when Aubameyang was up front when that was happening, and it hasn't changed at all. And that's the most frustrating thing as a Chelsea fan.
I look at the slate of players that they brought in, and incredibly big names on there, obviously, Joao Felix, but I think about the makeup of this team, and I look at this lineup that they brought out against Dortmund, and I see like 7 attacking midfielders playing at once and no pure number 9. I think you want the ball back in the net, in the back of the net. Kai Havertz is a generational talent, in my opinion, but he's not a striker. We know this. Yet Graham Potter is a terrific manager. I agree. They need more solutions up top. I don't think they need to go buy out even more players. That's not the answer. They need to have a clear, cohesive idea of what their number 9 is going to do, because Kai Havertz is not that, in my opinion. I know that's up for debate,